Coming to you live from the St. Rose Career Center, this is Work It! With Lizzie Edwards, Luke Schmonsky, Cassie Heath, and Ben Lamb.
Good evening, and welcome to Work It, your one-stop shop for all Career Center hints, tips, and headlines. My name is Ben Lamb. As you can tell, I'm sick today. But what should you do if you're sick on the day of your big interview? Also this week, Cassie Heath with Cassie's Corner, Luke Schmonsky reports on interview faux pas, and Lizzie Edwards with Lizzie's Corner, where we get your questions answered. But first, you've done your duty. You've gotten the shining interview opportunity. And on the day of said interview, tragedy strikes. What do you do when illness impedes the interview?
In today's economy, we know that it's difficult to even get to the point of an interview. So what should you do if you actually end up getting sick and you can't make it to the interview that you've taken all this time to schedule? After doing some research, it was discovered that the best way to do it is to be honest. Talk to the employer. Let them know exactly what your situation is. Go out there and let them know that, yes, you're not perfect, you got ill. However, give them an opportunity to have several dates that you're available so that you can schedule a further point. Make sure, too, to think of preventative measures. The biggest thing now is to make sure that you don't get sick at that point. So do things like wash your hands regularly, have good sleep hygiene. And if you're thinking about it, when you're taking yourself on the road, grab one of your handy little sanitary pens. It's a sanitizing agent. Basically, it'll keep your hands from getting too many germs on them. And fortunately, up in the Career Center, we actually have these to give to you, so you can put them in your back pocket or your purse or your car, even bring them with you when you're going traveling. So there's a few things that you can do when it comes down to getting sick, but the biggest thing to remember is to always keep a smile on your face and always keep your employer in the loop.
And now over to Cassie Heath for an issue of Cassie's Corner with some hints about reference letters.
Hi, and welcome to this week's segment of Cassie's Corner. This week, I'd like to talk to you about reference letters. Start asking your professors to write your references early and often, because you don't want to be that guy that waited until the end of his senior year to ask for references. Rough. So, now that you know what you need to do, let me tell you how. First, come into the Career Center and fill out this sheet, which will allow you to open your credential file. Once you've done that, you can take as many of these white sheets as you want, give them to your professors, and they'll write you a reference letter and send it back to us. The more references you have, the more opportunities you have to show employers and grad schools just how great you are. That's all for this week. See you next time.
Thank you, Cassie. I'm sure we all took something very valuable away from that message. Speaking of the message, when you go to the interview, what are those things that you should really not do? Well, Luke Schmonsky reports on those interview faux pas that you should be fearful of.
Alright, so what are we talking about here? The top 5 interview mistakes?
Faux pas.
Alright, so the top 5 common mistakes for an interview. 1. Dressing inappropriately. How you look matters. So you want to make sure that you dress appropriately. Okay? That's number 1. Number 2, looking disinterested or not really caring. You want to make sure that you come prepared with some questions so people know that you're interested in growing within that position. Number 3, basically just odd behavior, things that you wouldn't normally do. Well, you might normally do, but you don't want to do it in an interview setting, such as answering a cell phone during the interview. Guarantee you won't get the job. Or swearing. Even though your interviewer might be a potty mouth, don't swear. Don't swear in an interview. It's not good. Okay? It's not good. Number 4. Listen, there's a big difference between having confidence, which is what you want, and being cocky, which is what you don't want to be. You don't want to come off as arrogant or cocky in the interview. It just doesn't work. So make sure that you kind of check that attitude at the door and that kind of thing, okay? And number 5, taking the first impression for granted. In almost every interview situation, somebody's going to come out, greet you, and shake hands with you. Okay? That right there is the first impression. So make sure that you're making a solid one. Stand up. look professional, and give a great handshake. I know this is a lot to think about, and I know interviewing is very stressful, okay? Stressful. Stressful times. Stressful. I understand. So, what you can do, come up to the Career Center, and we can help you out. You can do a mock interview, you can sit down with one of the nice people I talked about before. We'll ask you some interview questions, you can answer them, and we can tell you how you did. All right? Have a good night.
Thank you, Luke. With interviews on the mind, we now head over to Lizzie Edwards for another issue of Dear Lizzie.
Hello. Welcome again to this week's episode of Dear Lizzie. Dear Lizzie, I have a really important interview next week with my dream company, but I'm crazy nervous. What should I do? Marty Lincoln. Well, Marty, I think you should come into the Career Center for a mock interview. You can practice your interview skills. What you need to do to sign up for a mock interview is come into the Career Center and book an appointment, or you can call. And what you will need to bring is a DVD to have it recorded if you would like. You will need to dress professionally. You will have to bring a description of your job and also a resume, and you can practice for your interview. That is all. See you next week on Dear Lizzie.
Stellar message, Lizzie. Well, that about does it for us this week, folks. Thank you for visiting. It was good to see you again. Make sure to come back next week for another wonderful issue of Work It. In the meantime, feel free to come on up to the Career Center on the 3rd floor of St. Joe's Hall, and keep an eye on our calendar at all times to see if any events strike your fancy. In addition, you can always access the Career Center 24/7 on www.stros.edu/career-center. And if you haven't registered for eCareer Center yet, make sure to get right on that. It's been nice talking to you, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.